Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Q&A edition of Optimal Relationships Daily, episode 1715. I'm your host, Greg Audino. Happy to be back with you once again for another Q&A episode, which we haven't done in a little bit. This question actually comes from a listener who has sent in one before. We really appreciate you following up and trusting us once again. And of course, it's great to see you continuing to do work on your relationships. The work never completely ends, does it? No, it does not. Thank God. So let's get into this question now, everybody, and start optimizing your life. Hey, Greg. I've been with my fiance for 5 years, and sometimes when we used to get into disagreements and we'd eventually apologize for our respective mistakes, he would say, "I'm sorry, but," which negated the entire apology to me and seemed like he was only saying sorry because it wasn't worth fighting about. I pointed this out, and he was very receptive, and seldom does it these days. However, I've noticed I've started doing it in a way. He may say or do something, and then I react in a bit of a dramatic fashion. Once emotions die down, and I realize I shouldn't have reacted so strongly, I'm noticing that I profusely apologize, which I can tell you is 100% sincere, but then I go on to say that what he said or did is why I reacted so strongly. Fortunately, I had the self-awareness to recognize that I was doing that after the second or third time, but after the third time, he sat me down and had a talk with me and pointed it out. I said he was 100% right. That completely went against what I was asking him to do, essentially making me a hypocrite. I'm only trying to share why I reacted so strongly and explain my feelings, but I understand how that can be perceived as me pinning the root of the fight on him, which is not fair. Especially when I can be a bit of an HSP sometimes. I learned that term from this podcast. Do you have any advice for how I can sincerely apologize when I make mistakes, but still get the reason for my feelings and reactions expressed in a proper and balanced way? Okay, great question, asker. Self-aware, as you mentioned, and I appreciate you sending it in. Let's start by talking about the apologies themselves, or the manner of apologizing, as you ended your question asking about. So based on what you've told me, I highly recommend leaning into more I statements when you apologize. This is another topic that's come up a few times on ORD. Basically, if you don't know, an I statement is an expression focused on what you feel, separate of who might have caused you to feel that way. So for you and your fiance, it might be something like, "I felt very dismissed in our argument the other day," as opposed to, "You completely dismissed me in our argument the other day." So it's a subtle shift, but make no mistake about its importance and its effectiveness too. The difference between the first two statements is that in the first statement, the I statement, you're opening up and being more vulnerable. You're talking about your feelings and the sense of weakness, frankly, that's washed over you. But in the second statement, there is an immediate accusation in leading with the word you. You might feel as though you're doing a good job of expressing your feelings by saying, that second statement was, and you aren't entirely wrong. It's much better than saying nothing. And sometimes we do definitely need to hold people accountable for their actions. But still, the problems are, one, you're running the risk of making someone else responsible for your feelings instead of taking full ownership and responsibility yourself. And mind you, you can do whatever you want with the person after taking responsibility. This is not the same as giving them a free pass. But you're choosing to put yourself in power this way when you take responsibility. And when you don't, you victimize yourself and you put unfair and unrealistic pressure on the other person. And then number two, by placing them as the cause of the problem, they're much more likely to defend themselves as they've now been accused, which in their mind can be the same as being attacked. And when defending their honor or integrity is the first order of business, that creates two opponents, right? It's you versus them, not you two against the issue at hand. And this makes it really difficult in the moment for them to be on your team and nurture you and your difficult feelings. Now, depending on the relationship's history and the history of each individual, I statements will not always be enough to keep peace. You might make an I statement and your partner will jump to aggression anyway, claiming that they know what you're getting at. And, maybe they've always had to jump to their own defenses in these types of circumstances. Or, you, the person issuing the I statement, might be doing so just because it feels like your due diligence, when in reality, you're just waiting for them to interject and take responsibility back, right? Now, however, I statements are a much better course of action in general, and if they're issued with the correct intentions, they serve to help in a far more important way, too. A way that I believe is particularly necessary for you, asker. What they can do is get to what's underneath the ceremony of these conversations that you two are having. So look, it's a great thing you have going here with your fiance. You argue, and when things are peaceful, you calmly talk about how the argument was handled. You seem to be receptive to one another's feedback, and you offer sincere apologies, looking to argue better next time. And what a fantastic problem this is to have. But even so, you might still be missing the mark of what's underneath these sorry buts. Yes, this annoys you, sure, but why? And why do you seem to uncontrollably make the same mistake after your fiance has taken your feedback and stopped? I statements help you to focus on what you're really feeling. That is the pain and sadness that's embedding yours and everyone's annoyance and frustration and anger and rage. I know you want this relationship to be great. And in an effort to do that, you're identifying and fixing the presentational part of it that doesn't look so great. You want your apologies to be sincere and non-accusatory. And that's a big part of the equation. But just creating a better performance and saying the right things won't necessarily be enough, albeit a great start. I'm not worried about your sincerity. I know you love your fiance. But what I want to make sure of is that in addition to the sincerity, there's also the understanding of what's causing you to have to apologize in the first place. So again, what exactly is so bad about sorry but? Why can't you help but to throw it right back at him? This is where the important self-questioning comes in. And mind you, whatever comes up can live alongside the love that you have for your fiance. But maybe you still don't feel heard and respected, even though he's changed his behavior. Maybe you've never felt heard and respected. Maybe his behavior change makes things look right, but deep down you feel as though he only changes that because you asked him to, and it's contrived and he doesn't really mean it. Or maybe you, now in an effort to feel heard and respected, subconsciously feel you have a right to be the one who's doing the steamrolling for a change and are enjoying that power. Maybe you feel like you've put all this unacknowledged work into the relationship. Or maybe you being dramatic and placing the blame on him is something your mom used to do and it just feels familiar for you to play that role and not him. Any of this and much more is possible. I have a feeling we're in the right ballpark with some of those that I just suggested, but it is on you to figure out what exactly is driving this compulsion to make him responsible for your feelings. And look, it's all okay. This is just your stuff. It's natural to not understand it all, and getting married before it's understood is in no way a death sentence for the relationship. You are very much on the right track. Just keep asking questions of yourself. Don't shy away from your feelings. Don't worry about how good your arguments and apologies look versus how good they really are underneath the surface. And keep looking for ways to take ownership of your feelings. Catching yourself in the moment is great. I statements are great. Making amends on top of apologizing is really great. The more you can flex that muscle of holding yourself accountable, the less you will subconsciously make efforts to falsely hold your partner accountable. If he's the right guy, he will love you for your flaws. And he doesn't have to be the only one causing rifts in this relationship in order for you to be loved or be deserving of love.
Bienvenido a Kaiser Permanente. El doctor ya te puede ver. Verá que aunque eres muy activo, ahora te cansas más rápido de lo normal. Verá que a menudo almuerzas comida rápida.
Próxima ventanilla.
Verá que pones a tu familia primero y tu salud tiende a caer en segundo o tercer lugar. Y claro que verá que tienes el azúcar alto, igual que tu papá. En Kaiser Permanente trabajamos juntos para ver todo lo que tú eres y darte el cuidado que tú mereces. Kaiser Permanente, para todo lo que tú eres.
Now, for those who don't know, living a healthy lifestyle is something that I really try to emphasize. I try to stay very diligent when it comes to the classics, like sleep, exercise, movement, sunlight, and of course, hydration. Introducing our sponsor, Liquid IV, the category-winning hydration brand fueling your well-being. One stick of Liquid IV in 16 ounces of water hydrates you 2 times faster and more efficiently than water alone. It has 3 times the electrolytes of traditional sports drinks, contains 5 essential vitamins, B3, B5, B6, B12, and vitamin C, and is made with premium ingredients. And I assure you, it makes hydrating very easy. Thanks to Liquid IV, I no longer have to carry my gallon jug of water around with me all day to keep well hydrated. True story, I really used to do that. So, grab your Liquid IV in bulk nationwide at Costco, or you can get 20% off when you go to liquidiv.com and use code ORD at checkout. That's 20% off anything you order when you shop Better Hydration today using promo code ORD at liquidiv.com. Okay, and a big thank you to the asker once again for sending in this really terrific question. There's a lot to consider here, and I hope the self-questioning points you in the right direction. But I can't say it enough. I really love the start you're off to, and I think that at this stage, you're doing amazing things for your relationship. No one is meant to get married without having some problems to work through. So the fact that one of your main struggles is trying to argue to the best of your ability shows that you are already in a really great place and only trending in the right direction. Now, for anyone else that has a question to send in, something that's feeling difficult to navigate through on your own or with your partner, please feel free to reach out to me if you would like to. You're always more than welcome to send in your questions, and I'm more than happy to help. Email me at advice@oldpodcast.com, advice@oldpodcast.com, and you will definitely hear back. We can keep the response to just email if you prefer, or of course make an episode out of it as we normally do. And your identity will be kept anonymous, and the only person you will speak with is me. So, if you're in need, don't be shy. But that's going to do it for today, everybody. As always, I thank you for joining and listening all the way through. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll talk to you again next time, where your optimal life awaits.